I think people that come to us that feel that they're behind in their retirement savings, I think the first thing you need to do is reassure them that we're not here to talk about the last 10 years. We're here to talk about the next 10 years, the next 15 years. And stop comparing yourself to other people. Work with what you have. Let's figure out where you can make adjustments and move forward from there.
Thanks for tuning into On Target. I'm your host, Matt Tarka, partner at Concentric Wealth Management. Before we dive in, a quick reminder. Today's discussion is intended for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice. You can find our full disclosures at the end of each episode. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of On Target. I'm your host, Matt Tarka here, and today we've got a really fun episode, I think, planned. So all around me here, we've got the advisors of Concentric Wealth Management in the makeup. These are the people that work with you all, the clients and our prospects every single day. And today we're going to change this up a little bit. We're going to do a bit of a roundtable discussion, talking about some of the things that we're seeing, some of the discussions we're having, and things that we think that our clients should be thinking about and our prospects should be thinking about. So to my left here, I'm a left-handed person, so we're going to start to my left. I've got Dean Johns, CFP, CPA. We've got Nicholas Groman, CFP and a lawyer. We've got Tim Powell, AIF, CFP. We've got Molly Myers, CFP, CLU. So a lot of, I think that we've been planning for this for a couple months now, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. So let's go ahead and dive right in. The first question I'm going to ask, and I'm curious what you all are seeing. What are you seeing the biggest financial planning mistakes that people are making right now?
I would say one of the things I've seen a lot is over saving. I know that we always focus on under saving and whether you're going to make it, but I also think there's a place to look at the over saving and whether you need to work as long as you originally had planned.
I would agree. There's always a plan to save, but rarely is there a plan to distribute. And as much time should be taken to work on your distribution plan as your savings plan. Have a lot of people that go into retirement and they're working on a number for savings, but once they hit the number, they don't really have a plan B. They don't really have a next step.
I was actually just talking to a client the other day, and I think one of the biggest challenges for people entering retirement is how do you flip that switch from saving to actually now spending some of it, having some fun during retirement. So I think, like you were saying, I think there's a balancing act between, saving and being, conscientious about it, but at the same time, life's short. Right?
Enjoy life while you can as well.
Well, I think we tell a lot of clients this. It's, if they don't fly first class, their kids are going to fly first class. So being sure to, enjoy that in retirement, I think is super, super important. Now, are you having...
But also, I think you need to do the basic, simple things all the time. So I think too many people get caught up on like 1 year that they have a big event and then I need to do some financial planning. To me, it's all the little things along the way. It's even from, starting your 529 right when the kid is born and has a social security number to, just making sure you max out your 401k and your HSAs and those basic things that add up over a number of years.
Well, if you think about the number of years that a person spends working, versus the number of years that a person spends in retirement, it seems like all of the energy, all of the time is spent on that time that you're working. And as our saying goes, if you don't fly first class, your kids or your heirs will. I really think that time should be spent and a plan should be laid out to really do your best living after you're retired.
But I think that requires also not waiting until a year or two before retirement to figure it all out. So
To plan.
5-10 years at least. And I think that gets to some of the other things we want to talk about is, just the mistakes that people make or whatever. But to me, it's like get started early. Even if you're in your 30s or 40s, having a plan is great.
Also, I think the question that a lot of people ask is, how much is enough? There's a great book that Lee Eisenberg wrote a number of years ago called The Number. And it addresses that magical dollar amount that you need in savings that gives you the ability to retire and maintain your standard of living. So what is that number? How much do you need to maintain your standard of living? What is your your standard of living that you want to maintain in retirement?
But that's varies so much per person.
And it changes in retirement as well.
You know, I think some people think, oh, you know, because they talk to the neighbor or their friends or whatever, like, oh, what's your number?
Sick number. There's no magic number.
Because I always come back to, well, how much are you going to be spending?
Right.
That
You can never compare an apple to a
person, so, yeah.
Now, in these cases, are you saying, clients coming to you saying, we've got X dollars right now, and, we're going through doing these really robust financial plans for them and helping them think about this. In those cases, though, where someone feels that they're behind, how do you work with them on that? How do you get them to where they want to be, or helping them maybe demystify that number for them?
I think sometimes if they feel behind, then they get paralyzed and just keep putting it off. And so to me, it's like, just start making progress. And, you can't change things overnight, but start making some progress, make sure you do have a plan in place, and then, go from there.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. You have to almost meet the client where they're at that time. So if you're dealing with somebody that's in their 40s or 50s and been saving the same way for 20 years, having to meet them where they're at, and to Dean's point, making the subtle changes just to get them from not point A to point B, but point A point 1 or A point 2, just to get there and build those stepping stones. I think the analogy I always use is, you have a house, you have the foundation on the brick layer. So I'm putting all these together so that way your house is there for retirement. So I think as far as clients, we've had some that have come in and they're dead set in their ways, and you can give them the best financial plan in the world, best saving strategy, investment strategy. But if they don't believe it, if we're not taking it in, then the plan fails right on the onset.
I think that it's surprising how many people don't live on a budget as well. And I think that's, especially if you're young enough, it's the small things that could be tweaked. And I say at least 50% of people don't work off a budget. So that's where I would probably start, especially if they were young enough. If someone's coming in their 60s, I think it's a different conversation.
Having a realistic expectation on your budget too.
Right.
We'll get it occasionally with somebody that says, I only spend $3,000 a month, and we know for a fact your mortgage is more than 80% of that.
Right.
So having a realistic expectation, actually seeing the proof.
Right. Seeing it in writing is different than thinking that you know what you're spending.
Well, I think the other reality with that, though, is they're not going to spend that much less in retirement than they already do. Yeah. They think about that and say, oh, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have the kids' college and all that. Other expenses kind of take their place. Mm-hmm. And so I think you got to be realistic. Like if you're spending, 15 grand a month, you're not going down to 10 all of a sudden. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, you see that even with people that are going to spend, more in the first 10 years of retirement because they're going to travel or do X, Y, Z thing. And I think the thing I always tell my clients is, you get to 80, you're not traveling as much, but your healthcare has gone up 3x. Right. So instead of having this, kind of straight line going up and dropping down like a roller coaster, you're just still going up the hill. We're all retired at.
Yeah. And especially in those early years where you do travel a lot and you sort of get used to it. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of keep doing it. So that's why you always make sure you have a cushion in there in terms of your lifestyle spending as well.
Right.
I think people that come to us that feel that they're behind in their retirement savings, I think the first thing you need to do is reassure them that we're not here to talk about the last 10 years. We're here to talk about the next 10 years, the next 15 years. And stop comparing yourself to other people, work with what you have. Let's figure out where you can make adjustments and move forward from there.
And I think one of the things that you all do such a great job at is not only coaching clients through all these things and through these major life changes, but almost being a psychologist to them. Walking through what worries you, what keeps you up at night. Dean, you just had a resounding piece of praise from a client the other day. And that I think is so impactful for what we do. And when you think about markets and you think about longevity, you think about planning, inevitably there's going to be times where the market ebbs and flows, it moves forward, it declines. For someone living off that fixed pool of money, right? Because I think that's something that a lot of people, maybe there's a wake up moment that we help them realize where it's you're no longer got a W-2 income, you're living off Social Security, maybe you have some sort of pension sitting out there, but this is it. This is your fixed pool of money. So when markets move sharply in one direction or another, like we've seen throughout this year, how do you coach them through that? How do you work with them on that? How do you help them understand that this is part of the market cycle?
To me, part of that, though, is the upfront planning in terms of liquidity needs. And Tim, you may want to speak about your bond ladder. Sure, absolutely that, because if we're doing our job, these ebbs and flows of the market shouldn't necessarily impact them. Now, obviously, the big corrections are difficult for everyone. But you should be having 2 to 3 years of liquidity if you're in retirement, that you shouldn't have to worry and stress about watching the markets every day.
And I think big market movements are normal. We have to reassure our clients. More importantly, their portfolios are stress tested. More importantly, that's why we plan, so that a big swing in the market doesn't upset your plans. And thank you, Dean, for mentioning income strategies, because I think if a person is retired and we have a big correction in the market, fortunately, because their income is protected through a laddering strategy or an income strategy, they're reassured their income is protected for 2-3 years. Some go out for 5 years. If you are still in that savings phase and we go through a major correction, again, that can either be a wonderful buying opportunity if you have cash on the sidelines, or it can be reassurance that that's why we build downside protection in your portfolio to weather these kinds of storms. And more importantly, it's reassurance that these kinds of drops in the market are normal.
And expected.
And expected.
So do you think there's a specific headline that causes, it's always interesting, right? We're seeing all this news kind of coming out minute by minute with everything lately. Is there a specific headline that causes your phones to ring faster than others? Is it just general market sentiment?
Markets hit an all-time high. Fear of recession. Those are two big ones.
The one that timed the last down has, anticipating another.
But I think that markets hit an all-time high is really funny, because the emotional reaction is, oh my God, that means they're going to go down. If a car maker says we just built the best car in the world, the assumption isn't going to be, well, I guess I need to steer away from that car because now their cars after this are going to be terrible. Fear of recession is another one.
You hear the pundits say, "Oh, I've moved to cash." That's
Wait for everybody else to sell so we can get back in.
Right. Yeah. And I would say it may serve just my clients, but a lot of my clients, I don't get a lot of crazy phone calls on market reaction, but more, I think, it's just because they've been through it. So a lot of my clients tend to leave younger. So they've gone through an 08 or 09. They've gone through COVID. They've gone through not being able to find a job. So if a market correction happens, they're like, yeah, that's par for the course. And I think with us and with our firm, everyone has a financial plan at the beginning, and we've already baked that into every single scenario. So when we get these big swings or volatility, at least from my firm, I'll get an occasional call here and there. Usually it's more, hey, I've got cash, what can I buy? And it's more buying opportunity, because the psychology piece of it, even with basic 401ks, hey, market goes down, great. Means you buy everything cheaper, you're still putting money in every pay period. So I think it goes back to that psychology on just, hey, it's going to happen. Here's how you're positioned. You're going to ride it out, and we're going to be successful with it.
It's also hard to avoid politics. And we have to reassure our clients that, hey, the markets don't vote. It's never a red thing or a blue thing. It's a green thing. It is what makes the most sense for you, what makes the most sense for our portfolios. And believe it or not, there is no correlation between who is making the decisions in Washington and what's going on in the stock market.
Now, maybe dovetail on this conversation. So we talk a lot about planning while clients are with us, but as I joke with some clients, when your financial plan ends and your estate plan begins, what are you seeing as some common pitfalls in some of the estate planning stuff? Nick, you're our resident lawyer here, so what's the biggest mistake? And then as people are having wealth transfer conversations, what is something that they should be considering, or where are those conversations going?
So probably the biggest mistake that I see is people not having an estate plan until it's too little too late, or you're trying to rush it so that way you can accomplish XYZ things. So I won't dive too deep into it, but certain gifting strategies and things like that to your kids have look backs where even if you make the gift and then you pass away, that's coming back into your estate. So I would say the biggest mistake is usually in what I tend to see if somebody passes away in their family, it then is the light switch for, oh, I need to get my estate plan done. And sure, that's at least nice because there's a driver and people then follow through. But we have new clients every couple of weeks, and part of the initial financial plan we have is, hey, what does your estate plan look like? The answers are non-existent, or it's buried in a box somewhere in my basement from 20 years ago. I have no idea who the attorney is, or even I started it and then I stopped. And that can be just because it's overwhelming thinking about what's going to happen when you pass away and you die. So I think for like me personally and for us as a whole, we really handhold, I think, that entire conversation in the sense of the initial conversation of like, hey, here's what happens. Here's the attorney that we usually introduce to, or if they have an attorney, we work with them. And I think I've probably signed probably 95% of my clients' documents as a witness. So, but that's probably the biggest mistake is, hey, it's too little too late, or, oh my gosh, this happens, I want to do this now. And it's like, well, if you pass away in a couple of years, you got some additional risks.
I can think of three things on top of that, Nick. One, the simple things that people can do to ensure that their assets bypass probate and are titled properly. And that's just looking at the assets that you own by title and making sure that they're titled properly. You don't need an attorney to do that. The second thing is not updating your estate documents, not updating your beneficiaries. And the third thing is not having conversations with your kids about what your intentions are. You can have a great estate plan, but if you don't communicate it to the next generation, then all of that planning can be lost.
And I know that's hard for a lot of older clients. They get hung up on a dollar figure and they don't want their children to know the amounts, but it doesn't need to be an amount to know a concept of specific facts that everybody should be open about. Even if you don't want to give the how muches and what you have, basically.
I would say we've had this conversation. We've had clients that want to leave a set dollar amount to a beneficiary, to a charity, and that's one of the hardest things to do. So it's going to be, hey, if you can tell me when exactly you're going to die and what the market's going to do, then I can tell you how much we put in this account. So leaving a set dollar figure versus like a percentage can get really, really tricky, really hard to manage and maintain, especially if it's over 10 years, 20 years, and so on.
I think the other thing is making sure it ties back to your financial plan. So I've had a number of clients where, they enter retirement, mid-retirement, and they're very nervous about, well, will my pot of money last? And so, it accumulates a lot, but then what I try to encourage and what they're starting to see is like, well, I want to do something gifting during that life, so I could see my kids enjoy it versus it just being that big pot of money. Obviously, in back of the cigarette. But it has to tie back to that plan because first and foremost, you need to be taking care of your retirement. But if your plan, for example, and I was talking through this with a client today, if we're only assuming, say, a 6 to 7% rate of return for your plan, and we also get a 15% return, great year to go give little gifts to the kids, man, and or take a trip with them and pay for it all. Enjoy those moments because it won't last forever. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a book that a client referred me to, Die with Zero, which is literally that. So gifting at the end of your life, gifting while you're living so you can actually see what it's used for and how it's more fulfilling than passing away and knowing where money's going to go. So I would say I've seen a lot of our clients do not have that perspective here recently versus wait till the very end, passing away. I mean, it's better for planning purposes to pass it when you pass, or to pass that money along when you pass away, but
You can do it smartly.
Yeah. And realistically, whether it fits realistically into a plan or not. I mean, I think another big thing is, if you hold on to an asset too long, especially real estate or something of that sort, and you die, nobody's going to know the value as much as you do. So we're being realistic on your age and what you're owning, and so that it's not a fire sale when you do pass away and somebody might not get the benefit of what it actually is worth. I think that being realistic on those terms as well.
Yeah, we see that with businesses very candidly. You know, so many people don't have a buy sell embedded in their operating agreement or anything like that. So, you know, owner dies, one of our clients unfortunately passes away, and what happens to the business? It becomes worth pennies on the dollar compared to what it was.
Right.
We've seen this.
Well, also, if you don't do the gifting ahead of time, and then you've got a, purchase offer on the table, it's a little too late. But for most cases. So again, it's that planning ahead to say, well, I hope to sell in the next 3 to 5 years. What do I need to do in advance to get ready for that?
Yep.
The other minor thing I would say is I think still people don't believe that trusts are for everyone, basically. And so they may have a will, they might have a healthcare power of attorney, but they think, oh, I don't need a trust. It's like, no. I mean, the trust doesn't, if you do it correctly, it's not going to really affect anything other than avoid the big probate issue.
Yeah, maybe demystify. I think that's a fun topic because we've had a lot of conversations with clients lately. It feels about having just irrevocable trust. So maybe demystify that for a second, if we can, that concept of have a trust instead of a will, or have kind of the whole gordita.
Well, I mean, it's a living document that can change as you change. I think that's one of the most
what it calls a revocable versus irrevocable. I think regardless, some people think that it can't be changed. Like, it's a simple amendment. That's why you review it every 3 to 5 years and say, okay, does that trustee still make sense? Do the guardians still make sense?
do the income restrictions I put on my kids still make sense, or can I?
Also, that ties into, well, where is your net worth at this point? So I've had a lot of clients that they put the trust into place when their net worth is $1 million. All of a sudden it's $5 million or $10 million. And it's like, oh, you said you were going to give all that to the kids outside of the trust at age 25, and now it's a $10 million estate. No. Got to revisit those things.
I'll take a little bit, I'll throw a wrench in. So I do have some clients that don't have a trust, but it's very unique scenarios. So like in Ohio, let's say your kids are 35, they're well established. Most of your assets are in retirement accounts. You've got your home. That's really it. And there's not a big concern about assets passing. There are certain states where you can do like a transfer on death designation for your house, payable on death for your bank accounts. And the need for the trust isn't as big because there's not a protection piece you need to put into place. Everything's bypassing probate with beneficiary designations. There's probably still some probate, but it's not a huge deal.
You don't have any minors.
Is there something going to grandkid and say there's
Take a look at the value of those accounts, though, because the last thing you want is a $5 million brokerage account going on a COD to a 23-year.
right. So 23 versus
But once you're 35, 40, hopefully you'll have stuff together.
So I have a few clients like that. They're in that camp where their kids are well off and successful, and they're like, we really don't need a trust. I'm like, okay, still doesn't hurt. I guess that's why biggest message for me, doesn't hurt to have. You can ensure it's done, and things are gonna fall correct.
I think one of the pitfalls too is somebody gets a trust, but then they don't title anything in the trust. Just because you have a trust document does not mean it's just a blank piece of paper unless you put an asset into that. So,
But at the very least, review all of the assets that you own by title and make sure that those assets are titled properly.
I think kind of one of the things we talk about with clients too, and kind of maybe putting a bow on this is, when you pass away, there are so many things that happen, and that's just an added layer of stress onto the family. And they're already dealing with this really catastrophic event, and having everything clean during your life, it's kind of a courtesy to the next wave, the next generation.
like cleaning out your house.
What was it? Street cleaning. I don't leave my kids a mess. This is payback. Cheers.
Clear.
Don't you be sure to show them that a couple of years here when they understand this stuff.
Or it usually falls on one responsible kid.
Always.
So we're about halfway through the year here now. Actually, we're a little over halfway through the year. Inevitably, this fall and winter, we'll get dozens and dozens of requests for qualified charitable distributions, QCDs, and then inevitably the tithing will start to occur with some of our clients who are more charitably inclined through religious organizations. What do you think people are missing as it relates to charitable discussions?
Gift low basis assets over cash. Goodness.
Even for like the monthly contributions to the church, where to say, you know what, I'm going to do all that, my annual gifting through one appreciated asset versus, the cash every Sunday or the cash every month.
Right. Indeed. We still have clients that continue to do that. And whether they have low basis P&G positions or G positions, they still make their charitable contributions out of cash. So I think that's something that's a mistake that people definitely make with charitable contributions. I think the other thing is not being on top of QCDs. I think the majority of our clients that are subject to required minimum distributions do take advantage of QCDs to a certain extent, but it's a wonderful tool.
Yeah, and I would say, I think with QCDs, which are qualified charitable distributions, those start at age 70 and a half from your retirement accounts. So it's up to 105 or 110, where the exact amount is per year per person should give to a charity. When you make that gift, it doesn't get recognized as income for you. Where a lot of our clients use that is for required minimum distributions, which right now are at 73, eventually will be at 75 for a lot of people. But if you have a required distribution and it's $200,000, let's say, you don't want to recognize all that income and you're charitably inclined, you can give your QCD amount, and that amount will count towards your required minimum distribution. So it can really be a big tax mitigator as well, a lot more efficient. You have to worry about AGI restrictions for gifting stock or gifting cash. But I would say that's the other thing that I tackle people miss is they're giving to charity, they're 70 years old, and they're looking for the most advantageous way to do it. Let's say they just have most of their retirement accounts, not any appreciated stock. We can use a QCD, and it's even more tax efficient.
The other thing I've been talking about, a lot of my clients about, are the donor advised funds, especially in years where maybe you have a business sale or just a high income year. But the other reason I push for it during your lifetime is then you can get your kids involved early on in those decisions versus, again, everything at the end. So basically you can just pre-fund 5-10 years worth of contributions, put it in the fund, it's invested, and then you decide the timing of all that in terms of actually gifting it to the charity.
I mean, I think that's great for taxes as well, only because when you're just gifting annually, you might not even get an itemized deduction for it because you didn't give a lot. So really planning those big gifts to kind of coincide in the same year so you can get a better tax benefit for it.
Well,
If you're not 70 and a half, but you don't have appreciated allowance.
and it's also important now, especially with the older, over 65 with the extra senior deduction, taking advantage of that while you can, but then in years where you're not going to potentially itemize that, how can you basically kickstart it so you do have a big tax benefit there?
I was going to say, you work with a number of family foundations. You've got a number of folks who tithe and a number of donor advised funds that I think we all work with. To your point, that appreciated securities, and that's why recognize the basis and give the cash when you can often give appreciated securities? And you all specifically work with the younger school of clients. So, you're working with the older clients primarily. I'd say you're working with the younger set of clients that aren't subject to QCDs. What are young people who are charitably inclined? What are they doing?
Let me go first.
Well, I think, again, as I go through like their tax return and stuff, and I see the same charity every year, it's like, oh, let's pause here. A donor advised fund is still a great way to do it. Also, again, it's like you say, that appreciated asset. It's just most charities nowadays have a mechanism to be able to do that very easy. That's basically all you got to do is sign a piece of paper. And so we'll transfer, behind the scenes, and also you get that fair market value deduction, but then you're not recognizing that. If you still love that stock, go back and buy it again. So you're not losing out on anything here.
Yeah, I'd say bunching is big for these. I'd say on the clients that have to do tithing, a lot of them are in that cash situation. And it's more just that they're pre-programmed that I'm going to give 10%, and a lot of it is cash. And it's because as money comes in, it's cut right off the top. So there's not really a lot of time for things to appreciate in value. But where we can do it, and where I have a lot of clients doing, is that bunching effect, where it's, again, just explain bunching. And do y'all need your CPA brain here? Standard deduction is $30,000. For you to itemize in your taxes, you have to have enough itemizations to be above $30,000. So think of your mortgage interest, salt tax.
Well, it's also with the state and local tax now, where if you're under a certain income, you can get up to 40,000 now versus 10,000. So again, it's how do you get in those years where you're going to itemize and then maximize that benefit? Because what you don't want to do is just barely go over the 30,000. And so out of maybe your $20,000 charitable deduction, you really don't want to get a $5,000 benefit.
Right.
But that's, again, every year just going through the tax planning and saying, okay, what are you going to be wanting to do from a charity perspective? And then how does that tie into your tax projection for that year? And then we typically look at it 2 to 3 years at a time, because it's like, okay, we're going to bunch and itemize this year. We're going to take the standard the following year, and then we're going to bunch again in the following year. And so you can pre-fund or prepay basically, those church contributions or other charitable contributions into that 1 year. All right.
Maybe the hot question here. So we have a couple folks that we work with. We love them. But they'll bring us a $50, $100 contributions, gifting $5,000. Your opinion, is it more impactful to do one $5,000 contribution to one place, or those $50, $100 contributions? What do you all think?
I truly think it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. I think it's, if people are charitably inclined and they have a lot of different charities where they want to make a donation, I think that's wonderful. If you want to focus on a few select nonprofit organizations and truly be a steward, truly make a difference, then concentrate your contributions and give a larger amount to a smaller group. Frank, it depends on your own particular state of mind and what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. And how many people have touched your life that you just want to give back to, whether it's $100 or, $1,000.
Let's face it, there are some nonprofits out there where $100 to them is like $10,000 to another. So I don't want to discourage that for sure.
Yeah, we've had a nonprofit out of Columbus we've worked with where I think $100 provided like 25 Thanksgiving meals. So like for them, $100, $50, $10, it doesn't matter. It's going towards something that's going to benefit them. So the extra 10, I get 10, it doesn't matter. I've never had charity decline receiving. So you're like, it's I would add to that.
Yeah, and fortunately, with the ease of the QCD process, we can do that. We can have your QCD go to 1 or 2 places, or go to 10 or 15.
Right.
You just provide us with a list of the organizations that you want to benefit, and we'll take care of the rest.
Now let's kind of let's wrap this whole thing up here with everyone's favorite topic, insurance. What do you think is the most overlooked piece of insurance? And then as you're thinking about, someone who might be 20 or 30 and they start with us as a client, and then we see them through multiple phases of their life, and as their wealth changes, how should their insurance strategies also change?
When you're younger, umbrella policies, for sure. When you're younger and you're building wealth, get an umbrella policy that just covers everything. And then obviously as you get older, as you build wealth, as you need to find other ways to mitigate risks, there are other ways to do that. But I'd say just getting started, get an umbrella policy.
Yeah, and really quick, for those that don't know, an umbrella policy is a policy you get for liability coverage. It goes on top of your homeowners and your car insurance. Very, very cheap. But the way I have 4 kids, so when my kids start driving, yes, I'm going to have an umbrella policy. It's going to be significant just to protect for them driving on the roads of Cincinnati.
Also, if you have any sort of rental property, we're definitely adding an RA policy in place. And make sure you kind of monitor that just like anything else. It's like, well, again, based on your net worth and your asset values, it's like you might be able to start out with $1 million umbrella when you're, 25 or 30, but when your net worth grows, your umbrella needs to grow with it. And then I think the other piece, and we're working on this for a number of clients right now, is, when they start to hit their 50s plus, start looking at the long-term care, but not the standalone policies anymore, but the hybrid policies where it's tied into life insurance. But you get to a certain net worth, the death benefit stuff isn't as important as having the long-term care pool to take care of that, and you're hedging against using up all your assets for.
Without just using it or losing it, having some form of death benefit at least on it.
And Matt, you mentioned this, but as a business owner, my goodness, a buy-sell, something to protect the value of your business in the event that something happened to you or your partner. That is critical. And we're dealing with specific situations right now where a buy-sell would have absolutely helped the solution along. And we've had to go through a pretty complex planning process, and we're not through it yet. But that's a simple way to protect your business.
I think the other thing I've seen recently is, they'll do the right thing. They'll buy a bunch of term policies or, other types of insurance when they're young. And so they might have $5+ million of life insurance. But then as their net worth grows and they get older, they don't have as much debt. College is paid for. It's like, you got to review that insurance. Do you really need to be paying all that premium for that level of insurance that really isn't necessary for your financial planner?
I think as assets grow too, for those that don't have a long-term care policy, it might be too late, whether it's health or age. Being realistic to be able to self-insure. I mean, there are a lot of people that can self-insure. I mean, a 10-year Alzheimer bit in a home is a lot different than your typical, stint in a long-term care facility is 2 or 3 years.
That's 2.5 years.
And so I think a lot of people can self-insure that as well, if possible, and just thinking of it that way.
Yeah, I would say the biggest mistake I see people do is when they're getting insurance initially, undershooting what they need for insurance, because everyone always thinks of pay off my mortgage and maybe pay for some things for my now widow or spouse, maybe my kids a little bit, and that's it. But when we're doing insurance, we're looking at the quotes and looking at how much you actually need, being able to break in, okay, you've got inflation attached to this. Here's ex-spouse, or not ex-spouse, but your widow or widower might be living for like 60 odd years. We have to replace your income. And vice versa. We have some clients where one spouse stays home. Again, just insurance on that. This notion of having 4 kids, I can tell you, daycare and childcare expenses are through the roof, and they're not coming down anytime soon. I mean, you can spend $25,000 or $30,000 on a summer camp just to have your kids in camp for 8 hours while you work. So when we're going through those initial calculations that we might throw out, like $1 or $2 million for somebody that's late 20s, early 30s, and I think, man, that's a ton. But when you actually start going through, hey, your mortgage is paid off, for wanting super fun college, you replace income for X amount of years, here's what this actually is. Even with proceeds being reinvested, there's still these gaps that have to be filled in. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I see. It's like you're simply really underinsured, and there's not really an appreciation for, hey, if you pass away, this gets paid pretty quick. It's tax-free, and this could be life-changing for your kids and for your spouse.
And we've all been planning long enough that we've seen that benefit for the survivors. But I would agree, while people are in their earning years, there's an epidemic of people just being chronically underinsured for life insurance.
Yeah, and the notion of my employer provides the coverage and that should be enough. The example I give all the time is if you think of like an employer like that's giving one-time salary or $50,000, whatever, anytime you're paying for that supplemental coverage, you're priced as a population. So think of like a grocery store that might have people that are 16 years old or 80 years old, bagging groceries, doing whatever. When they're pricing that for you, for that supplemental coverage, if you are younger or if you're healthier, your actual cost on the insurance is higher than what you would get privately. is you're subsidizing the older or the unhealthy population. So people will think, hey, I've got a couple $100,000, it costs me $10 a paycheck. And when you add all that up, it's okay, well, that's, a couple $100 a year. You could have $750 or $1 million for a couple $100 a year. But for the same price, you're gonna be a little bit more. The price per the dollar is a lot better privately versus a group policy.
Then you risk not having it if you leave. So,
And then you're too old. You might be too old when you leave to be able to get.
health, issue comes up where you're just not going to get rated as well.
And I don't want to knock group coverage if it's free. Get all the free coverage. Okay, it's free insurance, or if somebody is not insurable, they might be their only option. So there's still a place for it. But for people who are younger that are healthy, that just get that just because it's on paper low cost compared to what you got privately, it's a huge mistake.
Nick, do you have a formula that you use when calculating coverage?
I do not. So there's different metrics for 10 times or 15 times of your salary. I don't trust any of that.
I hate those because it's just every situation is.
Because if you live in California or New York and you're going to stay there, you probably need more than 10 to 15 times. So it depends on your lifestyle, depends on your assets.
Depends on if you're working as well. If both spouses are working, it's a lot different than, one spouse working. There's so many variables.
So mine's more personalized versus like a generic 10x or 15x. It depends on the situation. And if you're getting insured through us, you're a client downstairs with us as a wealth client. So we know your entire situation. The other thing too is there's certain debts that also die with you, like student loan debt dies with you. That's the biggest thing for millennials and anyone that's under the age of 45. They've got student loan debt. And common misconception is that if you die, that your spouse inherits your student loan debt. That's not the case. Even for most private insurance, like private student loans for people, a lot of those die with you as well. So,
But you do have to be careful if you refinance student loan in private loans. Who's the signers on them?
correct. So, but some of those different nuances, though, just say what actually has to be paid for when you die. So that's why there's not really the magic formula. It's just like, hey, let's look at you personally.
Do you have a formula? Good.
Well, other than what we all kind of learned going through our CFP classes, but I agree with everyone in this room that it is customized. It is. We have to look at each person's individual situation, and every single person and every single plan that we do for our clients is unique.
Well, if you don't have those benchmarks, start the conversation, but don't just use those benchmarks as the magic number.
So maybe the final wrap up question, which I did prepare you for this one. So we're going to go off the cuff here, and I know I'll catch some flack for this. What's one fun fact that you want all of our clients to know about you? What's something interesting other than 4 kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know this is going to take a second.
Yeah. Well, since we're kind of in graduation season, I graduated with 28 people.
No kidding. That's a small class.
Where in Minnesota are you from? That's good. My next, probably my fun fact. Well, most of my clients do know, but in addition to 4 kids, I also have 3 dogs. And now my middle son has acquired a pet lizard. It's a lepton gecko, which initially I thought would be an absolute nightmare, but it's a pretty low-key animal, so better than having a fish, I would say for sure. We had a gecko, yeah. So our house is a borderline zoo with kids and animals.
We get to be 5 cats and a dog.
Oh, shit, so. All right, so
It's chaos.
some full zoo.
What with the gecko?
Yeah,
Moving into a new.
Introduce reptiles. Not a lot of people know this, but I'm an artist. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree and worked in advertising as an art director, have minors in photography, painting, and drawing as well. So I still draw, I still paint, I still do creative photography.
Fun fact, I love playing darts. We love to play darts on you know, almost nightly basis sometimes. So we'll have to play. Definitely, John. And I have a 16-year-old on the road, so there's a fun fact for you. Be careful.
Should we be watching out?
You need some umbrella insurance. CID.
I'm well insured.
Well, thank you all for joining us. I think this.
Fun fact.
Oh my
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'd say we've got 2 miniature dachshunds. I think that's probably everybody's favorite fact. They would like to see the pictures. So
Do you race them?
we do race them. We race them. So in Cincinnati, we've got the second or third largest Oktoberfest in the world, and they do wiener dog races. And so we'll bring our 2 wiener dogs down and race them for the winner. You know, this is kind of funny because you pay more for the admission than you would get out of the return on this. And being the investment guy here, it's always funny. It's like the return on another. But it's fun. If you win the wiener dog races, the only thing you win, well, you win bragging rights, but you also win a case of Sam Adams Oktoberfest beer. So you go through 5 heats, and if your dog wins, then you walk out with a case of beer, very happy person with the bragging rights.
And if it's a miniature dachshund, that can last a dachshund for a while.
It can't. They've gotten into a beer or two there at Oktoberfest before. But
We need to put that on video next time.
we will, yeah. We'll get the wiener dogs in next time. We'll bring our pets in for the next episode. That could be interesting.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you all.
Make sure you have the gecko with you.
I think this was a lot of fun. Well, I definitely want to do this again. You know, maybe we'll make this a quarterly thing. We'll see. To you all tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in, subscribing. Be sure to watch out for our next episode coming next month. Where we're going to talk midterms, politics, geopolitics with emerging market debt manager that's coming in. So it's going to be a really exciting episode, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stay tuned for all of our disclosures. Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations to any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, please consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making the decision. Any guests and their companies on this show are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Concentric Wealth Management unless otherwise noted. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Any economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical, and there is no guarantee of future results. Any indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.